Hello and welcome to Amanda's Trying, where sometimes all we can do is try and get through a day, and that's okay. I'm Amanda, and today I wanted to talk about how people around those with post-concussion syndrome and probably just health issues in general can support us in a way where we feel encouraged. And yeah, that is just helpful because just because you have good intentions doesn't mean that you're actually doing anything that is helpful. I'm trying really hard, I promise. But all that I could do today was cuddle my dog and cry. Before we get into it, I feel like this is starting to be like something I have in every video. Disclaimer. Some of these truths may feel hard to accept if you are somebody who's supporting another person and you're like, how dare you be critical of the way we support you? I'm very biased, I will say it right now, because I have post-concussion syndrome and because I've been working really hard at getting the support that feels helpful and effective for me. I'm going to side with the person with the health issue rather than the supporter. And that's not saying I'm against you, but I think there is sometimes this feeling and expectation of you're the person in need, you don't get to choose how we help you. You should just be helpful that I'm even putting in this effort because I'm going out of my way for you. And what I'm saying in this video is that's actually not good enough. There's ways that people do try and help, but it's totally ineffective and maybe possibly even hurtful. And so it's hard for, it's hard for people to advocate for themselves, and they don't want to offend you. I don't want to offend people, but there are things that are hard to hear or hard to say that still need to be said. And if I need to be the bad guy, if I need to be that person, that voice for somebody else who's not confident enough or isn't sure how to ask for these things themselves, then I will do this. And I hope that if you are somebody supporting somebody with post-concussion syndrome or any other health issue, that you will be open-minded and also willing to reflect on yourself and see if maybe there are changes that you need to make. Starting off with the super fun stuff, what not to do. So these are the things that I personally have found aren't helpful. They might add to the stress, or they just don't do anything for me, or what is going on? Or at the worst case scenario, they actually hurt me and can be harmful. So let's start off with a simple one. We won't dive right into the deep end with this. But something that I think anybody, no matter how involved or uninvolved you are in somebody's life, when somebody has post-concussion syndrome and somebody asks, how are you? And I'm sure this is true for like so many things. If you're like going through something difficult, people ask, how are you? That is like literally the worst. That is literally the worst thing, because you're not sure if like they're asking like just like to be polite, like, hey, how are you? Oh, I'm good. You? Oh yeah, I'm good. Nice to see you, and then move on. Like, you're not sure if it's that or if it's like, hey, like I'm thinking about your post-concussion syndrome. How are you doing with that? Maybe they're asking how recovery is going, or are they asking like what my symptoms are like today, Or are they asking about like where I'm at mentally? Like, I don't know. And so usually when people ask how are you, I just go yeah. And unfortunately, that is a direct quote. Super weird, super awkward. People have no idea how to take it. But like, I don't know what else to do. Like, I don't know what you want. So please. No. Another thing that I feel like I talk about on every single one of my videos, and I will continue to talk about, is toxic positivity. This incessant need to always look at the bright side. Oh, but look at this perspective, and there's good that comes out of it. And oh, you're feeling sad. No, don't feel sad. No, don't feel angry. You can't feel angry. This is all part of God's plan for you. Things like that. Stop. I'm allowed to be like, hey, the fact that it's been almost 2 years of me being debilitated, that sucks. And I'm not gonna look at the positive. I'm just gonna be sad and angry today. Like, why not? Or an appointment went horribly. Never experienced that myself. But let's just say hypothetically, I'm allowed to be angry. When people are so fixated on being positive, it ends up feeling like you're ignoring me when I say, this is really hard. And that is a terrible feeling. Don't make people feel that way, please. And this is tied in with the toxic positivity. I have mentioned, like, my faith is really important. So I go to church, and a lot of the people who encourage me like to do so in, the context of faith, which is totally good. I'm not saying that needs to stop. But I do think that especially Christians are like really terrified of like negative emotions, especially relating to life circumstance, because God is in control and he allowed this to happen to you, so how dare you be angry? Because that's like questioning God. But I think it's really important to recognize that the Bible is filled with people who have asked for answers and who have said, God, where you have put me, it sucks here, and I just so desperately want this to end. And I remember when I first started being able to do devotions, the first book that I started reading was Job, and it was the most beautiful thing in the world because it was so validating, and it validated me in ways that I didn't feel any of the Christian people around me had really done. And so there's kind of that aspect of toxic positivity, why can't I say that word? Positivity that is related directly to the church and the way Christians interact with people who are struggling. And I think they really need to do better. We really need to do better. Sometimes, like, always trying to, like, inspire people and whatever. Like, sometimes we just don't want to hear it. Like, I'm not here to be inspired or to necessarily be inspiring.
Because I don't think I would be a very inspiring disabled person.
I'm just here to be sad and grieve where I'm at right now. Another big thing that is a little more serious is, I think if you're supporting somebody who has PCS or any other health issue that leads to limitations like how many phone calls they can make, how much information they can process at one time, that sort of thing, I think it's easy to feel like you should just be taking over. You should be, you know, controlling their treatment and figuring out financial stuff, and just feeling like they're struggling so much to keep up with day-to-day stuff. I should be doing things for them, and maybe that is something that needs to happen, but it should be always based on what they're asking you to do. If you come in and you're just like, listen, we're gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this for you, and I'm gonna apply to this, and I'm gonna get you set up with this treatment, and this is what's gonna happen, we're already dealing with feeling really disempowered, and we've lost our independence. And for somebody who's supposed to be supporting to then all of a sudden add to that feeling of being overly dependent, being a burden, being completely incapable of taking care of ourselves, that's harmful. And not only is it harmful, it actually a lot of times is illegal, because we're still adults. We still get to control our treatment and our finances, and if we ask for help and allow for you to be a part of that part of our life, then that's a different story. But there needs to be that communication, and there needs to be that consent. Ready for another tough one? Alright, hear me out on this one. It's not about you. Don't make it about you. I understand, as you are supporting somebody who has become debilitated or disabled, or just whatever words you want to use to describe them, to support somebody who is so limited is difficult. It's difficult for everybody around that person. I understand. It's exhausting, and it's emotionally draining, and it adds to your workload. All of this is true. All of this is valid. But guess what? For the person who experienced the injury, experienced the health issue, is still trying to, deal with this process of recovery, all of the pain, the frustration, the exhaustion, the emotional duress that you are under as a supporter, multiply that by 10, by 20, by 100, because it is worse for that person. They are the ones who are in literal physical pain. I'm not saying you're not allowed to be hurt. You're not allowed to be tired. No, I'm not saying that. But you need to find ways to take care of yourself. That is your responsibility. And to place this exhaustion, this pain back onto the person who is injured is so harmful. When somebody all of a sudden has to rely on your support, I guarantee you they're already struggling with feelings of, I'm a burden, I am making their life miserable, I hate the fact that this is happening. And if they're having a hard day, whether it's physically or emotionally, and you respond with, it's hard for me too, I am struggling here too, believe me, we are painfully aware of that fact. And what are we supposed to do with that other than feel bad and hate ourselves for relying on somebody? It's not helpful. You can have those feelings of I'm hurting too, but not to the person that you're trying to support. Go to therapy. Go to your best friend. Go to your partner. Go to your siblings. Whatever. Find somebody else that you can talk to in private and have that moment of release of all of this stuff that you're carrying, because I understand you are carrying a lot of weight now. But that weight cannot be put back onto the person who is now struggling with PCS. That's totally inappropriate and totally unfair to that person. And now that we've gotten through all that fun stuff, and you're still here, congratulations. Let's talk about what you should be doing, because I just told you basically don't do anything, and now you're like, okay, so then what do I do? Well, I will tell you. I got you. Okay, so first off, if you remember way back before I completely tore into you and the way that you support people, kidding, hopefully, asking general questions like, how are you? The worst. So, what do you do instead? Ask specific questions, like, if you want to know how the recovery's going, ask, how's recovery going for you? Where are you at in the process? Any updates? Any new treatments? So many options of specific questions to ask. Or if you just want to know, like, literally, how are you feeling today? You could be like, hey, how are your symptoms today? Or what have you been able to do today? Or, if you're hanging out with them or planning on spending some time with them, being like, hey, what are you up to doing today? Here are some, I've just been like, having options like, here are some activities I thought we could do, and having them be a range of, activity levels. Or if you are like worried about their mental health or just want to check in and be like, hey, how's your mental health? It's that easy. Do it. Please, we beg you. Another really easy thing, if you're worried about, am I being toxic with my positivity? Do you see how much I had to think about saying that? Let the person that you're supporting set the tone. If they're sitting there being like, today sucked, and they're like ranting, just like listen. Or if they sit there and are like, I literally, like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm so hopeless right now. Maybe that's opening up a door to be like, hey, I got you. Here are some things, if they're Christian, here are some verses that might be encouraging. Or regardless of what your faith is, like, here's a song, like my song recommendations. Shout out to that playlist. Be like, this song has been really comforting. Or be like, hey, you might not see it. You might not have the confidence that you're gonna get through this, but I'm telling you, you're so strong. I don't have to like write the script for you, but I'm just saying, really listen and see what they need. And ask them, do you want to be encouraged right now, or do you want me to listen? It's okay to do that. It's actually really nice when people do that. Advocate for the person you're supporting when they want it. So, maybe they don't always want you at appointments, or maybe they are trying to handle financial stuff on their own, but then are like, the government literally makes everything 10 times worse. I can't deal with them. Can you do this call after I give you consent? and be like, yes, okay, yes. But just let them decide how you help when you help. If you go to an appointment, remember, you are there to advocate for them. You are there to be on their team. Okay? I know sometimes you walk in and they have this high, the health professionals have this title, and you're like, oh my gosh, wow, you're so smart. I guarantee you not all of them are. Again, not speaking from experience. If they are talking too fast, or if the lighting is too bright, or if there's noise in the hallway, like asking to shut the door, or saying, hey, can we take a break? My person is struggling and they just need a moment to kind of collect themselves so that they can keep following what you're saying. And maybe just ask them, like, hey, I'm sure they will learn as they go into different appointments and meet different doctors. They will learn what they need support with. So maybe I know that there's stuff that I'm not saying that they're going to be like, hey, it's really helpful when you do this for me in an appointment. Or, hey, it actually didn't help when you did this. And listening to that and being okay with that. Because again, it's not about you. So swallow your pride, little one. You're not important. It is for the person with the health issue that you are there in the first place. So don't make it about you. Learn about their condition. If they have PCS, learn about that. I don't know what that was. Whatever their condition is, learn about it, not so that you can lecture them and be like, hey, let me tell you about what you're experiencing. Or so that you can go into a doctor's office and take over the appointment and be like, well, I've done some reading and I think they need this. No, that's not why you are getting information. It's so that you can understand what they are going through, have more empathy, and also understand maybe why they're reacting in certain ways, or where areas of support may be needed. What areas of life may need support. So, for example, post-concussion syndrome. People who have PCS struggle to regulate their emotions. This is a very relevant thing for me and my family. And sometimes my family just wants to be like, can you please just be rational? Can you please just calm down? And I'm sitting there being like, I am not choosing to flip out right now. And I'm not saying it's okay to flip out or anything like that, but kind of having that extra amount of patience, of understanding, saying like, hey, this behavior is not okay. We just need to take a step back. Totally fair. But, not going into the, how dare you act like this? How dare you treat me like that? That was inappropriate, and slamming into them when maybe perhaps the behavior is because of the health issue that they are experiencing. And I saved the hardest for last. You're welcome. Understand that you are the one who needs to be making the adjustments. And again, this might sound one-sided, but let me just point out to you that the fact that we are dealing with a health issue means that every day is an adjustment. We have already been forced by our bodies to adjust every aspect of our life to our new reality. And we're simply just trying to exist. And so for you who has a functioning body and brain, it's on you to then make those extra adjustments that need to happen. For example, communication. People with PCS struggle with processing. So this big issue in my family was that my mom would come home and she would be like, hey, reminder, like, you need to make this phone call, you need to look into this treatment, and this needs to happen, and I'm just letting you know that I'm gonna be doing this, and this. And I'm sitting there trying not to have a panic attack because she's talking at me and there's so many things that I have to do and that she's gonna do and I have to remember, and I can't remember anything that she just said to me because I've been freaking out. And I would get riled up and then it would come out as anger sometimes, or I would just forget and I wouldn't do the things that I was supposed to do. And it led to this like constant everyday tension. And then we adjusted our communication and she started to write things that I needed to know in a notebook. And so instead of having to hear what she was saying all at once and then process it and remember it, I could just read when I was ready, and I could read as much as I wanted, and I could come back to it, and all the information was there. And I'm telling you, it literally stopped like majority of our fights. It's crazy. So, figuring out these adjustments. We did not figure that out. My therapist did. But, these are the types of things that you're going to have to adjust to. And you're going to have to get over your little way of doing things before. Because again, it's not about you. There might be other things that you have to adjust. Stuff as simple as what lights you have on at night and how loud the TV is, and even just the way space in the house is used. My family has had to adjust. I will need quiet times, or I need all of the lights on so the TV's not like flashing at me at night, which my mom, actually they all hate. I'm like, well, it's about me. Because they can hate it and then it still exists, but if we were to do what they wanted, then I would just have migraines every night. So it's not really, there's no discussion, you know what I mean? But like they just have to like accept, all right, this is something that we're gonna have to change. And sometimes it's like the little stuff that really is hard for supporters of people with health issues to be like, yeah, I'm okay with this. Yeah, I can do this. But it helps so much. Or even like your pace of life, which is, I think, something that's really hard for people. Naturally, I am a lot slower at doing things and just living life. I can't do activities that are high intensity, and if I do, a card game, I then have to rest for 20 minutes after. And my mom is like high energy. She wants to be doing something at every minute of the day, and it's been really hard for her to slow down and just like go down to my pace. And it sucks that this has to happen, but like people with PCS, we don't have the choice of speeding up. We can speed up for maybe half a day, and then we'll be knocked out for 3 days. Like there isn't that option. And even though it's hard and inconvenient for the people around us, like if you do want to support us, you do have to slow down. because we don't have the capacity to be flexible, but you do. That's just the reality. And some quick little tips for those with PCS or just with health issues who are like, I am not getting the support I need, but I have no idea how to go about advocating for myself. Fair. Here's what I will say. And it's all easier said than done, so I'll go with the easy one first. Ask for specific things. If you just say, hey, what you're doing isn't helpful, usually people just are like, well, then what do I do? If you're going to say, hey, the way that you've been doing it hasn't been totally helpful, having specifics that you can be like, maybe you can do this instead, then they can like have that concrete thing that they know that they need to do next time. And I found that to be really helpful. And the other things are mainly just like your mindset. Like, I think for me, there was like a lot of fear on asking and then being rejected, because like it felt like, you know, I'm already struggling, I'm just asking for help, and then for someone to be like, you're being annoying, it just is like hitting me when I'm down, kicking me when I'm down. Or like this fear of like, I'm gonna ask them and they're gonna say yes, and then they're not gonna have like the time to like take care of themselves. It's their responsibility. Supporters, you have the right to say no and to say, hey, I literally like cannot do anything else. Let's figure out how you can get that support. But it may not come from me directly. That's okay. But that is also your responsibility to have those boundaries and to maintain those boundaries. For people with PCS, just ask. What happens next is not your responsibility. So just do it. Just do it, Nike.
Why? Why?
And don't be afraid of being perceived as difficult. There are worse things in life, like having a migraine. I would rather be seen as annoying and difficult than be in pain for an entire day. But, you know, I didn't always have that perspective. It took me about a year to get to that point where I was like, you know what? I am just gonna ask. So I just am annoying. And you know what? It's okay. Actually, I'm happier. So, just be difficult. It's all good. Life is too short to try and make everybody like you, especially when you're in pain. To finish off the video, my song recommendation for today is Crier tout bas by Cœur de Pirate. I'm so sorry. All my years of French class taught me nothing. I'll put it in writing. But anyways, this song I love so much. I think the idea of just like coming together with somebody and crying out together is just so beautiful, and this is a great representation of what good support looks like. Crying out and really just making the person who's hurting, making their voice louder instead of screaming so that you are heard. So yeah, listen, love it, enjoy it, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Et si la terre est sombre, et si la feuille te noie, raconte-moi qu'on peut ici trembler ensemble. Et si le jour viendra,
Darcy's barking. Ridiculous. I wanted to talk about how... What did I want to talk about? That's not comfortable. Ow. Okay. My grandma is calling, 1 second. Okay. She's so sweet.